So I had a full review completely of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown on the Nintendo Switch, going up to about maybe hour 5 or so in the game, all scripted out and nice, but it didn't really feel like it was me. It was a good review, but it didn't feel that way. So I decided to do a whole different video where I candidly talk about the game, because it's a title that's going to be available for you guys to play on a demo, and of course the game is going to be coming out very soon. And this game is awesome. Let's just first and foremost, let's just say this game is awesome. This is the best Prince of Persia game that I have played ever. And I'm not trying to cap here. I'm not trying to sit here and overhype a game. This game combines so many of the awesome gameplay elements that I love. From, obviously, it's a Metroidvania game, so if you don't know, well, now you know it's a Metroidvania game, but it combines Hollow Knight, Metroid Dread, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, just all these different games, and puts them all together in this mismatch of awesomeness. It truly feels like Prince of Persia, if you played from the old school era, that this is the direction that it would have went if 2D games were still like coming out normally, and like there wasn't a whole transition to the 3D genre and era and all of that, and they decided to do stuff like the Prince of Persia Sands of Time and Warrior Within, and then the Prince of Persia game on the Xbox 360 and PS3. And I've played and beat pretty much all of those Prince of Persia games, and this is the game that I feel I've had the most fun with out of all of them. It combines even elements of the previous Prince of Persia games and perfects them with games like Metroid Dread. So if you love Metroid Dread, if you love Hollow Knight, if you love Castlevania, this is the perfect game to play, and I cannot recommend it enough. Now let's talk about some of these other elements with the game. You have the story, you have the presentation, everything looks lit. I love the graphical presentation. Now if you're playing on Xbox and PlayStation, depending on what system you have, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, the regular Xbox, it ranges all from 1080p 60 frames per second at the baseline, which is the Nintendo Switch version of the game, all the way up to 4K and 120 frames per second on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S. But there's even 4K 60 frames per second on the more powerful last generation machines with PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. So this game is finely tuned and optimized. The graphical look, not the best game graphically overall on the Nintendo Switch. I think that there's some things, if we're just gonna bring in other games, why not? Metroid Dread looks better in many aspects, specifically with the graphics in the game and some of the design. However, the Nintendo Switch version, which is the version that I've played the most, that one is still really good with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It animates nice, it's got some nice background details, the art is really cool. Once again, not the best graphically, and sometimes there's some close-ups and it gets kind of blurry on Sargon's face, who's the main character, but overall, I really enjoyed it. But speaking of Sargon, and speaking of the characters in the game, that's where I think this game shines. You're part of this 7 immortal crew where you blast off into the stage and you're all running and it's super cool. There's a big war going on and you're fighting, you're learning how to attack and do all this cool stuff, and you fight a big general boss at the end. That's the vibe. But you go from there to another mountaintop where there's a whole story set up, and I'm not gonna bore you guys with the story, but I enjoy it. I think that the text is very easy to read, the accessibility features are all there with the fonts and everything. It's really cool the way that they've set up this story, and it's very intriguing as well. There's a lot of drama in this story, there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of things that are going on with time distortion, some people that think that they've been there for 30 years plus, and all sorts of stuff, and you get access to those time distortion powers yourself and different things that you can manipulate. You get a bunch of cool upgrades as well, and the levels play out just like you would see in Hollow Knight, or just like you'd see in Castlevania. Got this huge map, all these different areas, all these different locations that you can go to and explore. But what makes this one very interesting and unique, and some innovative things, was exactly how you explore that and the tools that they give you to explore. So let me give you guys an example of this, and they've talked about it in some of the promotional material, is that you have this thing called like a memory shard, and you can hold down the D-pad and you can take a screenshot essentially of where you are. So if there's a place that has like a obstacle that you can't overcome because you don't have the power or the ability, you can take that screenshot, it'll put it right there on your big map when you go to your screen, and you'll be able to access it and see it, so you can say, oh, when I get this power, I can go here and get to this area or get this secret that's there. That is a really cool and innovative feature that every single Metroidvania game from here on out needs to have. If they don't have it, I've got a problem with it. But another thing that I absolutely love about this game with Sargon, the main character, I like the design of him. I think he looks really cool, despite some people complaining about the music and the hair and all that type of stuff. It all disappears when you play the game. But Sargon and this game, I put it on the hard difficulty, boys and girls, and goodness gracious, that's where the Souls influence comes in. You've got these little trees that are spread around, almost like grace trees from Elden Ring, and anytime that you access one of those, it recovers your health and enemies respawn. You also recover any potions you have. You can equip different amulets, but this game will kick your butt. Like, honestly, I put it on the harder difficulty. There's 4 different difficulties, plus you can also customize it to your fine tuning in terms of enemy damage and other things, so it can be as easy or as hard as you want it on your first run, first playthrough. And I put it on the harder difficulty, so there's 4, so I put on the one harder than the normal, and this game I'm constantly dying. Constantly getting my butt kicked, especially at the beginning of the game when you're learning how to play, when you're just pretty weak, right? You don't have any upgrades or anything like that. But even with some of the normal enemies in there, and I love that. I'm here for it. We need that in games because oftentimes, man, they do not give you enough of the difficulty in some of the games. So I think that they saw what people like with Elden Ring, with Dark Souls and all that, and then added some elements in there combined with Rayman, their experience with that. This is the same thing that made Rayman Legends. Combine it all together to get a super cool and fun experience. But speaking of super cool and fun experiences, let's talk about the most important thing, the gameplay, the combat. We have the map layout. We have all the different cool things that are fun about Metroidvania games all in here, but the combat is incredible. You have your standard attacks. You have your air combos like Devil May Cry. You've got foot sweeps. You've got charge attacks. You got access to a bow and even more powers. Even a glaive. The bow transforms into a glaive and you can throw that. There's also puzzles with that as well that you can solve with the bow, with the glaive, and other things. So all of that combines into a really cool gameplay experience when you're not slashing up enemies, collecting time crystals or time shards or whatever those things are called. That's your currency, pretty much like Souls. You can upgrade yourself when you go to certain sections, the shopkeeper, get upgrades, upgrade your weapons. You can purchase new items and amulets to help yourself do more damage or take less damage, less poison damage, and other factors, other buffs that you can essentially give to Sargon. And I love that. When the combat hits and it flows, man. You've got all sorts of options. At first, I wasn't sure. I was just going through and playing the game for hours on end, but there's a section to where they teach you about all the different controls. Like if you want to go to a training mode and you get time crystals if you complete them. And that section actually taught me a lot of different options in the air, how to start up your combos, how to do different things. And I'm like, man, we going into Devil May Cry territory at this point with this game. So I loved it. I absolutely loved that as well. Now, another thing that I think is super cool about this game is some of the counters. Like the counters and the parry in the game is dope because anytime that an enemy attacks you, you can parry it. However, if you wait for a big yellow glowing type of attack, you'll get a brutal counter on them. And when I say brutal, I mean brutal. It is like vicious how Sargon just tears them apart or knees them in the face or slashes them. So I love the combos in the game. I love the combat. I love how they've done everything. It just feels so smooth to get into. Now, that's not only it, guys. There's even more with the combat. You have access to these super attacks. Hold down the ZL on the Nintendo Switch. Hold down one of the top buttons, and then you press Y or X or other ones that you'll get later, and that will actually give you access to some type of super move. You've got moves that do a ton of damage, like where you drill through the enemy, but then you also have moves to where you put a healing ring around you, which can really help in a pinch if you want to recover your health, because if you're playing on the harder difficulties, especially the hardest one, but on hard and the hardest difficulty, this game's gonna come after you. Heck, I think even on normal, the game is going to come after you as well. So you defeat enemies, you power up, you find different locations, you get different upgrades, you get different amulets, you can buy them. There's a blacksmith that's super cool and super tall, powers up your weapons like with +1, +2, +3 and all that, and as you go on, you get more. Everything that you would want in here from a Metroidvania type of game. The greatest aspects of Metroid Dread, the best aspects of a Symphony of the Night, the best aspects of a Hollow Knight, all of that stuff are kind of all rolled into one, or even like Blasphemous, a game like that, all rolled into this with high production value and quality. Not the highest, not some type of super AAA game or anything like that, but it's still really good. I would say a notch below what you'd see in terms of production from Metroid Dread, but when it comes to gameplay, man, it is smooth, it is fun, and it's right up there with all of the best Metroidvania games out there. And I just love exploring all throughout the different places and getting to different areas of Mount Quaff and getting different abilities and different stuff that you could do and different weapon upgrades. It's just super fun to go through. That Metroidvania map is really hitting at certain times, man, and I feel super excited to explore different locations, secret areas, side quests, which are really great in this game. Side quests are awesome. You should definitely do those. The cool platforming in here as well. The platforming parts are awesome too. So there's so many different things here. And there's even like platforming challenges that I really had fun with, as well as side quests. Ubisoft says 20 hours plus, 20 to 25 hours plus if you do everything, or if you just go through the game normally. And I'm already like at 10 hours getting my butt kicked and not even close to really getting through everything in the game, not doing all the side quests and all of that. So there's plenty of combat, plenty of side quests, plenty of content here if you want that. Now, another thing here is that the combat, when it comes to how fast-paced and action it is, it perfectly complements some of the slower parts, platforming challenges in different locations. And there are some hellacious platforming challenges in this game. So you're going to be on your toes with some of them, or you're going to get eaten up. But the cool thing about this game is that if you fail a platforming challenge, or if you fail like a platforming part, it doesn't necessarily just kill you right off right there. You actually go back to the beginning or go back to the area. So it's a little bit forgiving in that respect, but I do like that overall, because some of those platforming challenges can be pretty tough. The boss fights that I've played so far are really interesting. Once again, I'm not going to be spoiling any of it because the boss fights are super cool. Some of them are very easy to just do, like you can just bam, beat them, no problem, but other ones are actually kind of tough. I think that the boss fight at the beginning of the game might have been tougher than some of them that I've already had, but there's mini bosses, there's big bosses, and yeah, you're gonna have fun fighting through them. Definitely make sure that you upgrade, get your abilities, explore, do all that, because you're going to need it if you're going to want to take down all the different side quest boss, mini bosses, and big bosses in the game. Some of them made me rage a little bit, but most of them were pretty cool. I've been able to go through and not have too many problems, but I'm not done with the game. There's still a lot more to play. Now, there are some other things. They're a little bit of a not so good. There are some frame issues. It's 1080p 60 frames per second on Switch most of the time. Now, I might have caused it myself by playing portable mode to docked mode and going back and forth, which caused some slowdown, and it did seem weird, and I wasn't able to replicate that, but there might be some slowdown in some other areas. Now, it never made me die or lose a life or something like that, or I couldn't get my combo off, but on the Nintendo Switch specifically, I don't think it's locked at 1080p 60 the whole time, at least docked mode. Now, in portable, I haven't experienced any of that. It's 1080p 60 docked, it's 720p 60 portable mode, and I haven't really experienced anything when I played portable. The HD rumble in the game is super good with the Joy-Cons. It's fun. They've done a great job with it. With the Pro Controller, not quite as good, but still really good with it. Now, I do want to try out the haptics on the PlayStation 5 version, which I will be buying physical very soon here, so I'll definitely get you guys an update video later after I've 100% of the game and did everything all the way through. But overall, I thought it was great. But there's one huge setback with this game that's making me not give it that 10 out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10 or the highest score that I think that this type of game can get overall, and that's the mini-map. I don't know what's going on here, because they've put in some of the best accessibility features. They've put in some of the best features overall for like a Metroidvania, the map system, placing icons, all these different things that they've done to innovate and to make sure that they have a good experience, an accessible experience. And when they decided mini-map, they said, No, we don't need that. So yes, I confirmed too with other people that are playing the game, there's no mini-map, and I don't know why there's no mini-map, and that's a big problem because there would be times when you're exploring and you kind of lose a sense of where you are in relation to when the last time that you looked at your map. And all of a sudden, you're constantly pressing the select button. You're constantly pressing, okay, let me go pause the game and let me get into my map and see where I'm going. A mini map would easily solve that. And if you look at the UI on Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it's really good. And you can use the accessibility features to make it even smaller on the screen. So a mini map would be able to fit no problem without getting in the way of the gameplay. So I don't understand why they didn't do that. But this mini map situation needs to be patched. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know why they left that out. They seem to have thought of everything when it comes to Metroidvania games, and they completely brain farted when it came to having a mini map, because I do think that is a big issue with the game and definitely a negative, and I'd have to score the game a bit lower because it doesn't have that mini map. All the best Metroidvania games have a dope mini map. All the best Metroid style games have a dope mini map. So I'm not sure why they did not implement that, and I'm really hoping that they have some type of day one update, or they have something very soon that gives people that, because I think it could get knocked down in scores because it doesn't have that, and you constantly have to pause the action in order to see exactly where you are and where you're going to go. So that's a big problem with the game. Now, if I had to give it a score, if I had to rate it, I would say this. It's somewhere between an 8 and a 9 right now as I'm playing through multiple hours in. Could go up, could go down, but it looks like it's going to be right around there. If I had to say if you should pick up the game or not, buy, sell, rent, whatever, people do that type of scale, I would say if you're a big Metroid Dread fan, if you're a big Hollow Knight fan, if you like games like that, Castlevania, this is a must buy, and you're probably going to buy it anyway or get it at some point. So I would say absolutely check out the game. Now, if you're not as big on that, then maybe you rent it. Maybe you wait till it's on discount, whatever the case is. I think it's a must play for action adventure fans out there. If you love the Castlevania games, the Hollow Knight games, Metroid Dread, games like that, Metroid titles, I think that you're going to be right at home at this one. Plus, there's a demo. There's a demo that you can go out there, pick up and play and enjoy it, see what you think. And I think that most people that play this game are going to be pretty happy with it outside of the whole mini-map situation. I'm not sure what's going on. Ubisoft, get on that, please. But that's going to wrap it up for this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and let me know what you guys think about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.